Hey, somebody's going to make more coffee. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth. With actual listeners in more than 100 countries, I am the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. Our sponsor today is IATAM.org. That's IAITAM.org. They're the only global member-based training organization dedicated to meeting the needs of IT asset management professionals. IATAM is the only global training organization turning out these IT asset managers that corporations immediately hire all over the world. So check them out. How would you like to complete an accredited online program and get a degree that's actually in huge demand? Okay, so you're saying, well, in huge demand by who? Just go to IATAM.org and look through their client list. You'll see everyone from Sony Pictures to NASA to the United Nations. Google is one of IATAM's clients. Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple. These companies only hire the people that IATAM has trained because IATAM offers the only accredited degree in the field. That's IAITAM.org. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And I have to say, I am thrilled. Now, I'm always happy to do these, but today I am like triple thrilled to have my guest who has been such a dear friend, such a mentor. I have so much, I guess, like we have so much shared time, shared stories together. She is the author of 35 books. She is a founding member of Women of Faith. And she likes chocolate sorbet. She is my tiny person. Please welcome Patsy Clairmont.
Hello, my friend.
I just miss you.
Well, thank you.
I just miss you. I'm telling you, for those who don't know, Women of Faith toured arenas just like for years. I mean, like weekend after weekend after weekend. And so at some point, somebody thought it might be a good idea to get like a token man, right? Because these were like the greatest women communicators, and there were about 10 of you guys, the greatest women communicators ever, and then a couple of the greatest singers. Like I remember, we had. On ours, we had Sandy Patty, Amy Grant, and Mandisa. Are you kidding me? Right? And so in any case, at some point they decided to get a token man, and I got to be the token man. And when they said, okay, now you'll be doing Fridays, and we're pairing you with Patsy Clairmont. And I said, oh, okay. And I had not met you or anything. And they said, now, the people on the tour, they all sit and they listen to the other person. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't know that I can sit week after week and listen to somebody over and over again. And Patsy, after 3 years of doing that with you, I still look back and I say it was one of the, probably career-wise, it was the most fun, most enjoyable time in my life. To watch you, to hear you, you changed me so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was such a privilege working with you. I loved watching you manage your stage. I loved listening to your storytelling. I loved being brought up in the story to this high place, and then the profundity of it all. It was great.
You see, I loved and you took my words, because I love the stories. Now you were I want you to tell a little bit about being agoraphobic, and that I heard that that was the basis of a story that you trailed out over 3 years. I heard different parts of it, but that was the basis of it, and I was always just in awe. So, do you mind for our audience just telling a little bit about that?
Sure. I think the reason that people, it sticks in their mind is because it's hard to believe that someone as noisy as I am was once a prisoner in her own home, that someone as lively as I am on the platform was once a prisoner in her own emotions, unable to communicate how she felt. So I didn't appear to be someone that had much hope for a future. And yet Christ says he comes to liberate and to set free. But when you see someone so emotionally incapable of functioning relationally or any other way, it does dampen your enthusiasm for a future for them.
Sure.
But because of who God is and him being a redeemer and a liberator and one who longs to help us be free from our fears and our anger and our unforgiveness, we have such an opportunity because of what he's done for us and what he continues to do in us to be able to really have hope blossom. And my hope came little tiny bits.
Well, how
It
bad?
wasn't a great thing.
How bad had it gotten? Explain
Well,
that, because this is
I,
curious.
I had not left home for close to 2 years. I would go little short sprints, but I had lots of rules. I would only go if my husband drove. I would only ride with him if he would drive the way I asked him to. And I would only go short distances. So, like if I had to go to a doctor's office, that would have been a reason I might have considered going somewhere. But other than that, I wasn't even doing the grocery shopping. I was so unable to figure out how to get past my enveloping fear that was traumatizing me. I didn't know that emotions don't have brains and you can't rely on your feelings to dictate how you live. And I was building a theology. I was building a doctrinal statement according to my fears. So if I felt like God didn't love me, well, then I had the doctrinal statement down. He plays favorites, and only the well behaved people get to experience life in that more abundant, because I could read where I was supposed to have that kind of life, but I couldn't find it. So I eventually began to give up hope and believe that it was about and against me, rather than understanding that my mind was feeding me information that wasn't accurate. We have wonderful minds, but our imagination can take us places we don't need to go and believe things that are totally against what he says, because we're not using the counsel of God to measure how we're thinking and to dictate, to direct, to guide us into truth. And the truth is what's going to liberate us. So when I finally came to a point of desperation and I
And
cried out,
and at one point you were kind of stuck in your bedroom, right?
oh, I had gone from not leaving home to not leaving my bed. That was how bad it had gotten. And I woke up one day and I thought, well, where will I go next? I mean, I'm pulling back. I dropped out of groups. I stopped going to visit friends. I became housebound, and then I didn't want to get out of the bed anymore. And I didn't feel I was in a safe world, that everything was a threat to me. So,
Tell me this. This is one thing that I remember that I misunderstood the first time you said it, and I'll tell you what I thought. But I always listened for this, and I would look around. I mean, there's like 15,000 women listening to you tell your story, hanging on every word. And there are several points, but I would always look around when you would say this because I would see if people had understood it, because I misunderstood it the first time. You would say how many packs of cigarettes you smoked a day, how many tranquilizers, and coffee. So tell me that, and I want to tell you something.
I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I took 4 very strong tranquilizers a day. And I drank 10 pots, not cups, of coffee, because that's all I did. That's all
See, that's
I
why. See, that's the part right there. Because when I first heard you say that, I went, she meant 10 cups. She meant
no,
10 cups. And I'm thinking 10 cups. That's a lot. And then next week I hear you and you go 10 pots, and I go, she messed that up again. I think. And then I asked you. I said, "Do you mean to say 10 pots?" She's like, "It." And you told me. I never will forget this. You said, "Yeah, honey, it was 10 pots." And I remember telling the doctor, "These tranquilizers aren't working."
That's right.
No
That's
kidding.
right. I did. And he said, "Well, I give you enough to knock out a horse, and it doesn't even affect you." Of course, he didn't know about all that coffee, but that's all I did. My weight had gone down to at one point it was 95 pounds. And that was because all I did was make pots of coffee and smoke those cigarettes and pop the tranquilizers. That was my diet.
And literally,
So,
you went from staying in the house to staying in the bedroom to staying in your bed. So
yes.
how did it turn around?
Well, one day I woke up and it was like a veil. It was kind of pulled up, and I thought, where will I go from here? They'll have to lock me away. And I cried from a deep place inside of me. And I said, "Lord, I'll do whatever you ask of me." And I didn't know he would actually ask of me to do something I had no interest in doing. I didn't know he'd even be on speaking terms with me. But in my spirit, not in an audible voice, but in my spirit, I heard, "Make your bed." Well, I thought that was ridiculous. I'm saying to him, "God, I want to do great things for you." And he's saying, "Make your bed." It just didn't seem like a great thing because I hadn't understood the principle that if you're faithful in little things, I'll give you more. If you're faithful in the more I give you, I'll give you much. But you got to start down here in the little things like making your bed. And I didn't understand that principle at the time he asked me. So I started arguing. Here, I want to do something for you. And then I hear this, make my bed. And I'm in it. I don't want to get up. And it hit me afterwards. That was the point, Patsy. So I said, "Well, Lord, I said I'd do anything." So I got out of bed and I said, "Lord, do I have to make both sides of the bed? You know who ought to make his own side over there." And I just felt like I was supposed to just make the bed, Patsy, just make the bed. because oftentimes we don't realize it, but we make life way harder than it needs to be.
Right.
We complicate it. So I made the bed, and then I stood there, and something happened. For just a moment, I felt as if there was a validation that I had done something right, and it was good. And I felt just a little pang of dignity come back into my life. Because when you stop doing everything you're supposed to do, you lose touch with dignity. You lose self-respect. And so that little ping of that coming back into me. But then I didn't know what to do with myself. I thought, Lord, I obeyed you. I did it. Now can I go back to bed? I mean, what am I going to do with my time? And I felt like he said, you need to establish order, go wash the dishes. Well, this was not the journey I thought I was going to be on. Actually, I didn't even think I would be in a journey. I thought I was lost forever. But he began breathing hope into me. The more order I put around me on the outside, the more orderly I felt on my insides. I didn't know that it would happen like that, but I began to feel like there might be a chance I could live in my life rather than be a prisoner in it.
You know, I'm very curious. I've had time, I've had years to think about this and to just to remember you on stage, to remember all the, and you're still, it's like I'm talking about you like you're dead. You're still speaking. You're still out there traveling. But I've had a lot of time to think about this because I've told people for years, Patsy Clairmont is so far and away the best female speaker I've ever seen in my life. And no offense to the other ladies, but it's just, man, it's a gift. And then you have developed the skill part of it. And I don't know who else is in the top three, but Patsy's in the top three speakers of all time that I've ever even seen, heard of, whatever. But I am curious what you think when you look out, these ladies, there can't be that many agoraphobics, and yet somehow they connect with your story like nothing I ever saw. And I, no offense to Marilyn, any of these others, but there is no doubt Patsy Clairmont was the star of Women of Faith. I mean, and I know you guys worked as a team, but I'm just telling you, you can just, people just went nuts when Patsy came out. And so what was that connection, Patsy,
I think we
that you
all
felt?
feel broken. I think we all feel broken. And if somebody is worse off than you, they offer a lot of hope if they got well.
Yeah.
Okay. If they can measure your journey and try to imagine a person who couldn't even get out of bed to a person under the spotlights on a stage giving hope, that gives them a lot of room to get well in whatever way they need to. So they may not have been, fear may not have been their issue. It may have been anger, which is why I always talked about that as well, because fear often is a disguise for anger. It's a hiding place. It's a costume we wear. And when you get our fear resolved, what you find is a whole lot of anger that hasn't been expressed and maybe never was allowed to be expressed. And now you have to deal with that as well. So forgiveness comes up quite a bit as another topic. There's so many topics that come out of that human fear. because it is our humanity to react in either anger or fear. And I find really angry people are usually fearful people. I mean, we put on so many masks
Right. Right.
just trying to survive not only life, but survive ourselves.
Yeah. You know, those Fridays, the other ladies would come in on Friday night, and you and I did Friday day together. We both spoke twice on the Friday, and there was one time that we would come up on stage together and somebody would take questions from the audience and we would ask. That was always a favorite time of mine just because I got to be there right sitting right next to you. And you know, I've always been a fan of laughter. I think there are speakers that can tell jokes and all, but it takes a communicator to find humor either in everyday situations or in situations that are not inherently funny. And you know, living the life that you lived there for a while, that's not an inherently funny thing. And yet you were able to communicate with such an ease. There is something I still think about 15,000 women laughing so hard that they just almost couldn't stand it. And I always thought that was such a big part of your appeal, that they were so grateful to you for providing that. And they because it got, I mean, it was very clear, it got to where you were expected to do that. They expected you to do that, but you always delivered. You always delivered.
Well,
I,
there is something so healing about laughter, and it also helps us to connect with each other because you take 15,000 women that have come from all walks of life, and the majority have no idea the name of the person next to them or down the road from them. It's just a vast arena of strangers, and there's an awkwardness unless you bring them together. And one of the ways that that happens is if they share a positive emotion. So when they laugh together, suddenly they feel connected to everyone around them that was laughing with them. They think, this is good. I'm glad I'm here. Listen to us. We're connecting. There's something about laughter that's so relationship building, and you have such a skill with that. Your timing is impeccable.
well, you know, I was thinking earlier about connecting with you here, and I'm going to ask you a question that you don't have to answer. And in fact, if you don't want to answer this, you can say, no, don't, and we'll let Matt edit this out. But I, you taught me so much, uh, and not just stage stuff and people stuff. You were such a presence for me. You're such a friend, and there came a time that you know, on a very tight tour where there's like 12 or 14 people, and then there's the singers that are singing with Sandy, and I mean there's a really tight bunch of people. And then there came a time that there was somebody added in there, and I didn't like her. And I would go home and I would tell Polly, I would say, I don't know if I can take this, man. I just do not like her. And then, I don't know, maybe a year later, somebody else from the tour was at our house. And I always ask entertainers and speakers, people like that. I always say, who's the coolest person you ever worked with that surprised you, and who's the biggest butt? And so this guest in our house said that name of that person, and I turned to Polly and I said, "See, not just me, not just me." And then I am not kidding you. We were somewhere else. We were at somebody else's house, and I asked, and they said that person's name, and I went, "Okay." So now I run into you. It's like 3 years afterwards. I'm gone. I had not been on the tour, and so I just imagined that Patsy was going to commiserate with me and tell me, yes, she's miserable. She's such a miserable person. And I really felt bad about leaving you with this situation. And I thought, you better take care of my Patsy. And I just was, but then I ask you, so how's that going? And I don't know if you remember what you said to me, but you came back to me with what you had learned. And I recorded it. Now, I'm not going to show it. I would love for you just to talk about it a minute. But I'm telling you, to this day, I've got that on my phone, and I take that out, and I listen to you tell me what God taught you from somebody that was unlovable. So I know there's no doubt you remember this. And so what did you learn? How did you, I think you are such a great communicator, and there so many of us have to work with people we would rather not even be around. And so when that happened to you, how did that affect you? What did you begin to understand?
Well, first, it was surprising because the other relationships, while nothing simple all the time, but there was far more good than any kind of ruffling of feathers. Anytime you get a lot of chickens in the coop, somebody's going to have a little ruffle now and then, but there was not much. We were very blessed and fortunate, and some of us worked together for 20 straight years. So that's quite a miracle of the Lord in teaching us mercy and grace and standing up for each other. But I have been the difficult person. So I have a little tank of mercy for difficult people. It doesn't go real deep. It doesn't go as deep as it should. But I have some. But this one, I had used up my mercy tank. And I was really struggling in my own mind and heart, and it wasn't getting any better or any easier. And I was walking from I had been upstairs signing books. I'd come back from the break, and this person was up on the stage, and through the backdrop I could see her image up on that, and immediately I felt a little jolt in my attitude, and I heard the Lord ask me, who called her, who gave her the position she has, who gifted her, who has taught her what she knows. Because she was a good communicator, but she just was a difficult individual for my personality. There was a clash. And as I answered these questions, well, she didn't get there by herself. Well, yeah, you positioned her. Well, yes, you gave her the gift. Well, this is about you, isn't it? It's not about her. that I have to honor you. And if I honor you, I have to be pretty sensitive to your people, pretty loving and gracious. See, gracious had left me altogether. I didn't have any gracious left in this relationship. And I realized as I was standing there and the questions just kept coming and the evidence that this was God's child. She didn't matter she was ornery. He had gifted her, he had positioned her, and it was my place to receive her and to love her. His bottom line is always his love. I find that a hard line to follow on a regular basis, but it's always the bottom line is love. And if we can get that one down, we got it made. And oftentimes when we run into these people, they are a reflection of something in our own personality that is the log in our own eye that we haven't identified.
Right.
I remember saying to a friend one day about a person in my life, and I said, that person is this, and this, naming every negative thing I had collected. And they said, and that's often the way that I experience you, Patsy. Well, I was floored. I mean, you want to talk about a speaker not having anything to say? That was my moment. I was silent because when they said that to me, I realized it was true. And I had to go do a lot of soul searching before the Lord on that. So I've learned that if I have too strong a reaction, the reaction isn't just about them. And that I have to look at the content of my own behavior. But the main thing in that situation that he taught me was that I am not to judge his people, and certainly not to judge his intention in that person's life, because he's always good.
Wow.
I may
Thank
not
you.
like,
Yeah,
I might want to vote on some of his choices, but he hasn't asked me for that. It says in the book of Job, who would counsel the Lord? And I keep raising my hand. I don't know what that's about.
Oh my gosh. You are just precious. I wish the people who don't know you well could actually like see your whole self. I would always call Patsy my tiny person. And because you said you got down to 90 pounds. I was like, from what? 92? I've never known you. It's like, good grief. You can't weigh 65 now. Hey, before we go, I want to ask where does somebody start with your books? Like what book do you think this is a good start? Somebody should get this?
Well, that's a great question. I think and you may find this to be true as a writer also. Our most current book tends to be our favorite book because we've come out of it fresh from the experience.
Right.
And the book, You Are More Than You Know. I really loved writing that book because the practical premise is you are more than you know, not because you're a big deal, but because God's a big deal.
Right.
And there is more to him than we have understood. We can't deplete his resources. When he gives us a gift, and he's given all of us gifts, when he gives us a gift, there's no end. We think we've come to the end of our ability. We haven't even scratched the surface of what he offers. this is an eternal God. I believe our gift will go with us into eternity. I think he has a big plan for our gift, whatever that means. I don't quite understand it all, but I know that there is a sense within me that gets very excited about the fact that every good and perfect gift is from the Father of lights, in whom there is no variableness. He doesn't change. And that unchangeable God gives us a gift to function in. That blows me away. But I have to say this. It is our tendency to want to focus on the gift, which has eternal value to it. But God focuses on the character. And if there is no character with the gift will outshine the person's ability to deal well with their gift, and they will get into trouble. So character is really important. If all you have is your gift, it'll wear thin, not because the gift isn't able to go on, but your character will take away from the beauty of what God wants to do with your life.
Wow. That is just awesome. And I think I agree with you about latest books. And I think it's because it reflects your latest thinking. It is, your thinking has increased through the years. Your wisdom has deepened. And I think that latest book is a culmination of that. And so you are more than you know. Yeah. And how can we get in touch with you, Patsy? How do people connect with you?
Patsy, whoops.
Patsy.
My dog with an attitude. I'm so sorry. PatsyClairmont.com. I'm over here, baby.
What kind of dog do you have now?
I have a Shih Tzu, and it is named properly.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I have to say about that. And she was mistreated, and nobody really wanted her because she's difficult. And I knew she was meant for me. And so the Lord has shown me a lot about myself through this very sassy, ornery dog.
That is so funny. I can see her back there.
And the vet said to me, when you brought this dog in, when you first got her, I told my people when you left, there's no hope for that animal. And he said, now I can't believe the difference in her. And I said to him, love changes everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Patsy, you are certainly a treasure to me and my family, but you are an international treasure. Yeah. And I appreciate so much you being here with us today.
Well, thank you. And you're always so kind to me. Thank you.
I love you, love you, love you, love you. So
thank you.
See you soon.
Okay.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk behind that mask. Don't breathe anyone else's air. That's what the mask is for. But do make sure you have a positive answer to the question, how's it going? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. malpractice ballots provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by Carnival Barker University of Sarasota, Florida. Are employment opportunities thin? Perhaps you just don't like being a doctor or a teacher anymore. Ready to try your luck with a whole new career? Carnival Barker University of Sarasota, Florida offers an accredited degree in what was once thought to be a lost art. With a bachelor's degree in carnival barking, you'll get to travel, eat corn dogs at almost every meal, and best of all, you'll be working with some of the world's most interesting people. If you have the ability to sit hunched over for hours at a time and say the same thing into a cheap microphone over and over again, success awaits you. All you need is a degree. Most employers are even fine for you to keep an unfiltered camel in your mouth while you talk. You'll learn to deliver pitches like, "He was bitten by a centipede the day he was born. Today he's the longest dog in the world, 4.5 feet from nose to tail with 8 functioning legs. Only 25 cents, a single quarter for a photograph made with Daryl the double dachshund." With your degree from Carnival Barker University of Sarasota, Florida, you'll become a master of the repetition pitch that has made so many of our graduates so incredibly successful. Here's an example. Nina, the headless girl. She's inside and she's alive. Nina, the headless girl. 1 thin dime will buy your time with Nina, the headless girl. She's waiting for you now. Nina, the headless girl. So, what do you have to lose? We are Carnival Barker University of Sarasota, Florida. Call now. Operators are standing by. Call 1-800-7-BARKER. Operators are standing by. Your future is in your hands. Operators are standing by. Class is filling. Call quickly. Operators are standing by.